of the Water Agency Board of Trustees meeting. If you give the roll call vote, the roll call of the attendees. Trustee Ron Wilson here. Trustee Walt Wachowski here. Trustee Neil Gaynor here. Trustee Brad Howe here. Trustee Ken Meggert. Trustee Pete Lincoln here. Trustee David Smith here. Trustee Hugh Conant here. Trustee Bob Bucks is here. Trustee Paul Martin here. We have a floor. We begin with our opening invocation and the pledges of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we come to you as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Help us to work diligently on this for the common good and in the best interest of those who we have been elected to represent. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our intentions, visions, plans, deliberations, decisions, and their fulfillment. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all in attendance, to engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue and discussion, understanding, wisdom, and humility. Amen. If you wish, prior to reciting the pledges of allegiance, please take an additional moment of silent prayer or additional reflection in the manner of your preference. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to the Texas. Pledge allegiance to the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to these Texas, one day, under God, one indivisible. Those like that's how it goes. Why are we second to those things? It's here. Yeah, there is here. Okay, receive any comments from the public this evening, Michelle? Thank you. Okay, we have the region age update from Arthur Bradenhoff. Good evening, Arthur.
Good evening, Mr. President, trustees. Two things. Our next meeting is first Wednesday in October, and we'll come back to the trustee board at the October meeting, provide that update. Neil Gaynor had a question last month about water strategies. We had a consultant take a look at it. I provided Neil a pretty in-depth review. We have them in our current 21-25 plan, and that email will be on the June drive of the Region H. Shelley will post that for you. And that concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have a special guest this evening from San Jacinto Regional Flood Region 6, Melvin Desmond, professional engineer.
Yes.
Private owner of the engineering firm here in
Yes, good afternoon, board members. Yes, so my name is Imelda Diaz. I am the owner of the engineer. We are pretty new firm with our own one for public development. Prior to that, I was working with flood control for about 25 years. And then I got involved with Neil. Here I am. So now I am representing the Woodlands, Montgomery County, various other counties in the upper watershed. Thank you so much. Region 6. Good update. And I've only been to a couple of meetings, so bear with me. So I'm pretty new and I'm catching up on really quick. But obviously the most important update that we have right now is that on August 15th, the Texas Water Development Board adopted the first ever state flood plan, which is a major milestone in our state's flood mitigation. This plan was delivered to the legislature on September 1st. And it's going to set the foundation for ongoing budget production costs, including the watershed, which portion of the Woodlands. And this plan is planned to be updated. So for this area, the next step involve conducting flood management evaluation studies to identify the most critical flood mitigation projects. So the TWDP is working to secure funding for these evaluations and other flood reduction projects. And then the other update is the presenting this of the knowledge program for the next phase of our daily state flood plan. And their authorization to proceed with the negotiations is going to be on the first family commissioners report agenda, postponed the 10th and 19th. And the final update is that Steve Costello is being launched this year in Houston. So that leaves his positions, which he was representing the board of municipalities vacant. We expect an announcement soon for the vacancy. So that ends my updates, but moving forward, I want to keep coming to these meetings and keep updating from the project. What we're doing, see how we can put things into that.
Thank you. Okay, we now go to the consent agenda, which is ratings and counties through 14 of our meeting packets. Move to accept the consent agenda. Have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second by Wojciechowski. And further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Very good. Yeah, from Cornerstone, County. Butchered the name.
No,
Please,
don't worry about it. It's use my last name. It's Solly.
Solid. That's
A little easier than it looks.
solid.
Yeah.
So while we're
Send it to me.
getting technology worked out,
And
we had mentioned, I think at the last meeting or two, and I think it actually probably came up in the SGRA budget.
so,
What is this lobbyist? What is, what is that line item? I think those were the kind of the line of questioning that occurred at that point a couple of months ago. So I thought it'd be a good idea to have Cornerstone come and kind of talk to you about who they are, what they've done so far, what they look at, what they see on the horizon as far as providing us support on the legislative and body side.
Really appreciate it.
Perfect.
So just a little, while we wait for this hopefully to come through, sorry about the trouble here. Just a little background on myself and the firm. Like Eric said, Cornerstone Government
here's
Affairs.
how we're moving.
We're based in DC, but I'm in the Houston office for the firm. We were founded back in 2001, so a little over 23 years old. We now have started with 2 people. We now have close to 200 people in about 14 states around the country. I think all told, we're probably the biggest government relations firm in the country. Opened the Houston office back in 2011 after spending 12 years with 2 U.S. House members from West Houston. First Bill Archer at the end of his term, then John Culberson. Worked for Culberson for about 10 years, 6 of those as his chief of staff. And then opened the Houston office for Cornerstone back in September of 2011. It was just 2 of us back then. Now we've got an additional 4 people in the Houston office and another 5 people in Austin. So we've been able to grow and most of the work that we do here in the Houston office is focused on DC and Austin, so federal and state lobbying work. A lot of local government, a lot of healthcare, a lot of energy. So sort of mirrors what you see here in Houston in the region. So just wanted to provide you kind of a quick update of some of the work that we've been doing on your behalf, mostly with the congressional delegation, but also with folks in the legislature. Yeah, this is great. That's my yes.
Other than,
So some of the, thank you so much.
Other one, around the corner. There we go.
Thank you. So some of the top bullets are just sort of, our general approach to the job is mostly about educating members and staff about the needs here in the district. The fortunate thing is you guys have a good congressman in Dan Crenshaw. He's active, he's engaged, and he's one who is willing to request earmarks or community project funding every year. And he has done that 2 years in a row on your behalf. And he's also had a great track record in securing funding that he requests. So for FY23, as you can see there, we were successful in securing 3.6 million from the energy and water appropriations bill for Bear Branch Dam modification, and for FY24, 1.83 for wastewater system replacement. The caveat to the FY24 funding, I don't know if you guys are paying close attention to the budget debates that are going on in DC right now, but they had to pull. The speaker wanted to put a continuing resolution on the floor of the House today. He had to pull it down because he didn't have the votes to pass it. That essentially would fund the government for 6 months into March of next year, and had an added provision called the SAVE Act that would prevent non-citizens from voting in U.S. elections. We don't know what the strategy is for him going forward. The likelihood is that all likelihood we'll see a 3-month continuing resolution. It gets us into December past the elections. And at that point, they'll pick up these appropriations bills that have passed the House and the Senate and try to merge them. The dollar figures are pretty far apart. The House is a lot lower than the Senate. But there's a path to reconciliation. The good news is because we're in the House bill, there is almost zero chance that we get removed once there's a final budget or omnibus appropriations bill passed. So in my, in my 23 years of doing this, I've never seen a project that was funded in either the House or Senate get stripped out of the omnibus or out of the final bill. So I think we're in very good shape there. The other bullets that we talked about, the Water Resource Development Act, we had positive conversations with Senator Cornyn's office. We had positive conversations with Congressman Crenshaw. They both submitted the language that we had requested to the various authorizing committees. The committee's feedback says to them was wait until next year when we have something that's directly related to water infrastructure funding. The Water Resource Development Act is mostly for Army Corps of Engineers funds that generally deals with flood control projects and isn't necessarily the right vehicle to look at reconfiguring some of those funding formulas that we were hoping to pursue there. So we'll have another bite at the apple, we believe, the early part of next year. And like I said, at least we're able to enlist this support of Senator and Congressman. And then the last bullet on there, some of the outreach that we've done to EPA and TWDB, and then identifying funding opportunities. We have part of our sort of suite of services is we have an offering called Ops Watch, which stands for Opportunities Watch. We have a grant monitoring team, and they essentially produce a weekly report that tracks every federal agency grant opportunity. And we send that to our existing clients who are interested in pursuing some of those opportunities. So that comes to the team here too. So this talks about coalition building. When I mentioned the language that we had asked Senator Cornyn and Congressman Crenshaw to submit on our behalf for the Water Resources Development Act, that was basically about ensuring that fast-growing municipalities are essentially given favorable consideration for this type of water infrastructure funding. We feel like that is a key differentiator for you guys. One of the issues right now is that through the big infrastructure bill that passed a couple years ago, the money that's in there for water infrastructure, there's 52 billion in there for it, is going to areas that are shedding population right now. and it should be one of some of those growth areas. We've made that argument, I think, successfully to the chairman of the Water Resources Subcommittee. It seemed to resonate with him. He said he'd work with us to find a vehicle for that language next year. But again, he didn't think order was the right vehicle. Yeah, but the rest of that is sort of the timeline. The appropriations process, even though it starts in March, these days can stretch over the course of an entire year. So, for example, beginning of this year, we're still dealing with Y23 units all the way in March. We're going to play with that in August until March. So looking forward, we're still going to pursue this language, as I mentioned, on STAG funding, state and tribal assistance grants. We are having conversations about the funding distribution once it gets to the state level. The Special Districts Recognition Act is an interesting one. That passed the House. It was a bill from Congressman Pat Fallon, who's from the DFW area. He recognized that townships in Texas were not eligible for ARPA funds when those came through. You guys probably experienced that firsthand. He was able to craft a bipartisan bill that would extend eligibility to townships specifically for any type of federal funding, where the funding could come directly to the township rather than going to the state or another government agency. That bill passed the House. I don't want to take too much credit for it, but I think we, on your behalf, made a strong case to Senator Cornyn that this bill was important, that it mattered to you guys specifically. And they had some conversations with Senator Sinema from Arizona, and the two of them decided to pick up the bill and sponsor it on the Senate side. Good news is that that bill has already made it out of committee right before the August recess. I've been in touch with the senator's staff, and they're hopeful, cautiously optimistic that that's one of the few bills that they can pass this month before Congress adjourns. So much welcome good news there. And then developing some of these relationships with the state legislative decision makers. You guys have probably heard whispers that Senator Perry, State Senator Perry, is intent on, this is probably going to be his last session. Excuse me. He's intent on creating a SWIFT type fund for water infrastructure, using either bond proceeds or the state's budget surplus. And he's talking about injecting a significant amount of money into it. Right now, he's focused on the supply, but at some point he's also focused on transmission and distribution. We're having conversations with his committee staff right now about what that could look like. It's pretty. They're playing it close to the vest at this point, but they know that we're interested. And they're open to our feedback and constructive criticism. So, big opportunity. He's gotten buy-in from the Lieutenant Governor, all development, appropriations, finance committee members in the Senate side over there. Outside, we'll have to see how the Speaker and Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker are able to patch things up and work together. But, we're optimistic that something big related to water is going to pass this session. Excuse me.
That was it.
Oh, that's it. Is there? So, yeah, open to any questions or.
What else do you represent? That well,
The Texas Medical Center, Rice University, just give you kind of a smattering as they come to me. Harris Health, the Houston Firefighter Relief and Retirement Fund, so the pension fund, Houston Metro, UT Health Houston, medical school, United Airlines. Don't tell me if you guys have had bad experiences on United lately. That's not my fault. I have to. Houston Partnership, And then a handful of Baker Hughes, Air Liquide, ExxonMobil, some of the big book players, the energy side.
How would Cornerstone handle maybe a competing interests, let's say groundwater versus surface water? Let's put that out there.
Yeah, great question. And that is the definition of competing interest. We have a conflict resolution committee internally, but we essentially give right of first refusal to our existing clients. So if we're approached by someone who could be a conflict, we come to you and make sure that, you know, you either give it the thumbs up or thumbs down. That's, yeah. So,
Thank you very much, Tony.
thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
Brings us to agenda item number 9, review and act on the draft Woodlands Water fiscal year 2025 operating and capital budgets.
All right, we have an updated version from what we saw last month. Basically, all of there are only 2 minor changes that were made from what was presented to you last month. And they would be on the expense side, on page, I guess, on the 3rd page, one has the 2 little lines at the top. We got a little bit more clarification on some software and licensing. So that went up about 15,000 or so. And then on the building repairs, that went up by 10. And we had some contractors come in and give some quotes on some security things and some other things around the office. And we had a placeholder in there. We were really close, but we got some actual numbers in, and so we updated that. That's the only other changes that we made to the budget.
The Audit and Finance Committee recommended approval of the budget. Do we have to have a different process because this is a slightly amended budget?
Not if the recommendation is coming from the committee. That's
Very good. Further discussion on this matter?
What are the major capital projects?
As far as what, there's,
Is that, you said here, the agenda that says financial reports. I'm seeing we have. I think we get talking about operating capital, but it's a major expenditure. Yes.
well,
Relative to the budget. I realize there's.
most of the capital things are in the tan areas, which relate back to each of the MUDs. And yeah, and so we went over that in each MUD. It's water, sewer, drainage, the things we do to the meters, we specifically, that was a bigger item in this budget. Things like replacing trucks and equipment, those types of things. I think we have a truck or 2, and then I mentioned a UTV for ditch response, drainage ditch response. That was one of the other capital asset purchases. Last year, I think we sold 5 trucks, and usually once they get to 100,000 or 150,000, somewhere in there, then we start to roll them over. And we happened to have 3 last year, so we sold 5, only replaced 3. And this year, I think we've got 1 more, and then the UTV, and that's it. As far as the vehicles, that's capital. But that's all in here.
Is there any plans or any more work in this building?
Say again?
Any major other plans to look in this building here that you're looking at doing?
Well, yeah, as you can see, there's some changes going on, so that's within the current budget. But we'll finish out the painting, and then let's see if I have summary. We're going to look at signage. We're looking at restrapping the parking lot, fire lane. It's all going away. Signage out front. We're looking at technology. So yes, we met with a contractor today, looked at quotes at putting TVs on either one of these walls for this room, as well as on the outside of this room, so that when this room gets packed, as it does every once in a while, that the folks in the hall can see and hear what's going on. So that as well, security, um, uh, security system as well. We're looking at cameras in terms of upgrading, but that probably won't fit within this budget. But those are the major items.
So you're definitely gonna stay in this building, and if it's moving, it's off the table, like,
At the immediate moment, yes. I think we've still got a few more years. Well, I'm not proposing to do some of the heavier lifting like big bathroom remodels and things like that. Those are about 20 grand each, so I'm not gonna do those. But I felt like it was time to get, we did the lighting, as you can see, changed all the lighting, and all that was light bulbs. We just changed, we didn't do anything expensive. And you can see the difference it makes, and a little bit of paint, and I think we can kind of bring ourselves out of the 80s and up to today. And yeah. And a lot of that relates also, I will say, to our public outreach. So, what you look like and feel like when the community comes in here to do business is a reflection on WWA and the MUDs. And so when you walked in here and it's dark and kind of old looking, it puts on a different look. So wanted to kind of change that perception.
like further discussion?
I have one question on the memo. Under the first paragraph, the operating budget, looks like we got a shortfall of 318,000. Do we know what the major contributors to that?
Probably the biggest one is the phase 2 of the sewer repairs. We shifted to this budget that you're looking at. So Woodlands Water didn't get that extra revenue. The project's not completed.
What left for do we hear?
Almost all of them, I think, yeah.
Phase
Had a
2,
little-
You're talking about the generic do we hear?
Correct.
You're saying we would have gotten revenue that we weren't planning on spending. Oh, the only revenue we got, we should have planned on spending.
It's revenue passed through to WWA to pay for the projects that the MUDs do.
Right, so.
So it comes in as a,
We didn't spend the money. We had that zero.
well, it's a 10% add-on from the districts.
to pay for the management of those contracts.
It's
Okay.
it's not 100% pass
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
Learning process.
Did you change all of this narrative?
Not too much.
Narrative.
Emma,
Standard, just updated amounts and anything unique, added
Nothing.
some, yeah.
On the committee, do we accept the budget as presented? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 10, receiving the regular monthly STRA division report. Updates, operations, projects, and public outreach. Mr. Meeks, good evening.
Good evening. Report begins on page 15 of your packet. And I do have a couple of revisions. I was going to tell you tonight what they are, and then they'll be corrected by the report next. So on page 15, towards the bottom, the middle table, the blend percentage. We did not end the year at 49% groundwater and 51% surface water. We ended at 50-50. So it's that Mark, Jason, in case y'all do not remember, have not seen him in a while, in the back is Jason Williams. He's the operations manager. He's the one that's in charge of getting you the 50% once it's been approved. So him and his staff did a great job getting you. The next revision I have is on page 16. Towards the top left, underneath the graph, where it says surface water was 51% and groundwater was 49. Those numbers are flipped. Surface water is 49, groundwater is 51% for August 2020. Everything else in the report has checked out, but if you have any questions, I can
Thanks for that.
Okay. One question, I think. On your monthly account of water loss gallon.
Yes.
You had the little block in the lower bar, middle of the page, the 16, that page you where you were. It said removal of pig launcher.
Yep.
Great Center Parkway and Donwood Drive. Washington. I like pig launchers. What do you think? Like, did you get rid of it? Was it there? Do we have more of them?
You
First time I've
have,
ever heard anyone talk about a pig launcher in the water business so far.
yeah, that's the only one that I know of that's in the water system. We actually did not know it was there until some mowing was done and all the brush was cut back. Because it hasn't been used since, I guess, it was installed. And so we removed it and scrapped it entirely. This thing was, what, say 20+ years old,
It
probably?
was installed back in the eighties.
Yes, longer than that.
Is there a receiver somewhere? Do you don't know where it is?
Well,
Yeah.
it was an existing elevated storage tank, had drained down and like sanded out the system. So they exposed the piping at the ET and they installed a pig launcher and then pig divided. That's my understanding, and you listen to history of folks in pig, that's where the pig launcher came from. But yeah, there is no receiving section. It's all been plugged back in and they'll wait to take it out once it gets in there.
Interesting. Okay.
We do have one other pig launcher at lift station 5 that was used to pig the line ages ago. It's still in play at this point in time. Well, it's still installed. We just don't use it.
Any of this AC one?
Harper's Landing was. We have a lot of samples from Harper's Landing because it's had a lot of breaks, but we grabbed some more just in case.
Okay, all right, it's got caught my attention.
I figured it would, so. For somebody's. Listen,
The AC total line repair, stop load on was it something replacing the clamp?
it was. So repair clamps are something we stopped using for permanent repairs roughly about a decade ago. Because they do exactly what happened here. Over time, everything moves and they kind of stretch out. So all we did was go in there and take the clamp off, cut a piece of pipe out, go back in with some couplings. We're done.
So those are a bunch of big oaks, pine that now from the barrel.
Hmm.
You know, for any disturbances, lines from the beach.
It didn't show anything at that point in time. Most of the oak trees, our lines are usually a lot deeper, usually starting 6 foot deep, going down from there. So if pine would affect it, oaks usually don't. Any other?
Budget numbers current now.
Oh, good point. Thank you very much. I was going back and forth on that. The budget numbers you see are still as of April 5th. I did receive an update of the financials last week. That was as of Thursday. They were going to input more data yesterday. So I did not want this report to show one set of numbers and the next report next week to show a different set of numbers. So the projects in here are not updated. Next week, we'll have updated project numbers. Tomorrow, I have a phone call and a conversation with the county to see if we're going to get financials next week for this month, for last month.
Using the new ERP system, it's generating your financial report. Is that was?
Yeah, that's what the holdup is. Correct.
Did you guys run a test environment before you switched over?
It did.
They did, and.
It worked great. But
Worked great, then.
as soon as it's put into the live system and then the historical data was start to brought over, then it broke entirely. Any other questions?
You on to the GRP board.
I can definitely cover it. I covered it as one, but if there's anything you want me to talk about in GRP, I can definitely cover it.
No, bottom's 29, top is 30. Those different months.
So the section 2,
Mhm.
page 29 at the bottom of that, that is the monthly usage. At the top of page 30,
Oh, year-to-date.
you got it. I
It was late last night.
thought I had another mistake. I had it correct. I said
What is the capacity of the?
30 million gallons a day. Approved production is 13 million gallons a day.
So we're at 5.9 per month. August data?
This should actually be, let me double check, that should actually be July. Yeah, July 24th,
So the capacity is 30 million,
30 million.
and we're using 5.9. 13.
13 is what's approved for the budget. Over here, I see the monthly surface water usage. There's not a total, well, there is a total of 355. That's 355 million. I don't know what that is. Divided in 30, so it's just over what, 11 MGD or so.
7.4.
There you go.
Chris, they're actually 31 days, 11.8, and it's 30 days.
What is February?
Well, it's 4.
Is there any active, any kind of selling of the GRP capacity, as a commercial person on the ground? I know there's a lot of disputes and lawsuits and all of that, so if you have got communities that, I mean, everyone knows this, I'm just, it's an asset, that more people to use it, the water rates will go down. You have communities that are halting development, the back water, their solution is gonna be punching the holes in the ground.
So there's four
It
entities.
seems like a really great opportunity for a good commercial person to get out there and cut some deals, try to get more capacity, and everyone's rate could go down.
So it doesn't always happen like that on the water side. The more I produce, it actually costs a little bit more. You'll make more revenue, it'll cover your expense, but the rates may have to go up. For example, we're at 13 million gallons. If I go to 16 million gallons, that's to have a 6 cent increase on the surface water and the groundwater side. Because the additional cost is for the electrical, chemicals and stuff is about $2 million. So
Debt service stays the same. So-
debt service stays the same, I know.
So why won't it, the net, total expenditure be less?
So I will tell you, we've had this conversation multiple times.
You've been, I was up there
I
10 years
understand.
ago and asked you the same question.
August of 23 is an example of where expenses did not go down, but revenue did, if you will. And so when we run the numbers, we have to cover it. So it's a 6 cent increase roughly for every 3 million gallons of use. There is no active selling a GRP. One, you have to be a GRP participant, right? And we're not accepting anybody new because there's no regulatory requirement for anybody to be part of it. Second thing is, if you're a current GRP participant and you want more water, you have to basically petition the GRP review committee for that. So there's four entities, if I remember correctly: the city of Conroe, city of Oak Ridge, Mud 88, 89, and Spring Creek, and potentially in the future another fourth one that has not made their intentions known just yet, that want more surface water that are currently GRP participants. Problem is, if you produce more surface water, I lose money on the groundwater side, right? Because you're selling one and not the other for one of them. Second thing is, there's no regulatory requirement to increase the production of the plant. Before, when it was made, it was because you had the 30% reduction across the board. We don't have that requirement. So if I increase the numbers in the surface water, and it costs everybody more money just to benefit those that are getting surface water. So keep in mind, there's 149 participants, of which 7 entities, including y'all, receive surface water. So 75% of GRP participants' rates would be increased.
But this is what we've had 2 months at least, maybe a third request to join and get water, and they're offered to pay for the connection that they would throw down.
Correct. We're not
And
accepting
the
any
problem is,
participants.
in the contracts that have been developed by the SRA, the GRP process, the difference between the groundwater fee and the fee they sell out of the pipeline, which used to be last year was 41 cents. It cost them more than 41 cents to clean the water. So that's the dilemma. They're demotivated to sell more water because they lose money by selling more water.
But that's not entirely true. So we can stick to things we know and consider ourselves good. Okay. That's all I'm going to leave it with that. Any other questions?
I got a question about the Commonwealth. They talk about the north side of Commonwealth, got a lot of shortage problem. And your plan is on the northwest side of the Commonwealth.
That it is.
Anyway, my question is Conroe refused to take them because they can't take them?
City of Conroe is one of the ones that have requested additional water.
So how much? Just in curiosity.
1.5 million gallons a day.
$10 million. Well, we're not giving you.
I do no work with the city of Conroe outside of selling water. Their politics are their politics.
No, I'm
Other
talking about,
questions?
you said that they requested 10.5 gallons a day. I was curious and I wouldn't sell it.
Why I won't sell the
No,
water?
I'm talking about River Authority,
Right.
ERP, of which we are one of 5 members. Why they wouldn't sell it?
Because if the rates increase to sell them more water, for one, they're not going to pay the entire fee. They're not paying it now. Second thing is, everybody else rates go up to give them water. Does that make sense?
No.
Other questions?
You got it.
It comes at this 41 cent. But I
Other
would like
questions?
to find anybody through it. I was really surprised that
Thank
it
you.
happened. When they went to 50%, right? That difference, let's say off the buck, between water, and we get 41 cents, that difference was probably unknowingly absorbed by every other GRP member. It was in the budget, but I doubt there was any discussion. I've asked the city of Conroe, board of city councilman, if he knows, said no. So that's the dilemma. We have contracts.
Maybe we need to have this sort of.
Well, we can,
Agenda item at that next meeting.
yeah, we can continue, but like I said, I think there's issues. Because we have an unused pipeline, 50% empty. Well, there's no way to variable cost. You know, when you see
The plant.
what?
The pipeline, not, it's the
Well,
pipeline
it's
down here.
playing the pipeline here.
Plants.
Okay, we're gonna move ahead to agenda item number 11, please. Attorneys report. Mr. Gates. Nothing to report. Okay, general manager report, agenda item number 12.
All right, this is kind of part of the budget, but wanted to bring it up under my report. Last month, you had requested to see what it would look like to adjust your insurance coverage. And up to certain amounts, you currently had your policy for D&O and general liability was 2 million. I think you heard that presentation. You're paying for that policy around $3,200, and to increase it to up to 5 million would be another $1,200 a year. So I'm making the recommendation and actually moving forward with upping that limit to 5, unless you have any other questions or concerns. No, the going to 10 doubles that yet again. So I don't feel like,
32 plus the 12.
yes, and then doubles. So it's like 85, right? And they don't have a 10, you'd have to get 2 5s, and it's a little complicated how it plays out. So I think going from 2 to 5 and not doubling the price, you're getting more for, it's a no-brainer to me. So I was moving forward with that. It doesn't affect the budget. That's correct. Yes, we'll be presenting to the MUDs for theirs next week. Correct.
Records.
This one does. Remember, the MUDs have their separate. Yeah, and you'll hear, your MUDs will hear that next week. Yes. A similar presentation.
How about Delta?
I'd have to ask that question. I'm not sure. That's all I had.
Can I ask a question? Have those policies ever been used at all? Utilized?
I think we've had used the general liability stuff before, but not the D&O. I think
She said that she had the last one was
20 years, yeah, in the industry, not here. Yeah, here she, I think she said no.
I just, insurance is that necessary evil sometimes, and you say to yourself, what's my exposure out there? Do I really need to go up to 5 million? I mean, what? 50 years, has it ever been utilized at all? Probably not.
So as I recall the presentation, that the costs have gone up, that's so much. But the 5 million really isn't that excessive, and whereas the other was somewhat inadequate. That's what I would think.
But considering that this data, I don't know whether the policy, it's really good.
Yeah, she said it's been that amount for many, many years.
Correct.
Correct.
It's, that'll take care of it. Not just like,
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah, I'm gonna be moved.
$1,200 there, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, $120 a person.
So that's all I had.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Agenda item 13, receive staff or ad hoc committee updates. The personnel committee did meet on Monday, and but we have no report to give at this time. We have to dot some i's and cross some t's, and that presentation we make next month. Audit and Finance Committee, Ron?
No reporting needs.
Public Education, Neil. Thank you. Thank you, Ron.
Yes, the public education committee met today. All communication documents, something about finalized and will be made available online. But we try, I'll get to. Probably know. You also know that there's going to be a presentation on infrastructure for the website for all the schools and directors next week. Our meeting. The release date for the website is public September 19th. Information concerning the website provided by a multi email blast stuff. At the same time, customer survey specific to infrastructure development. The consultant is currently preparing or will be preparing a messaging template on specific individual projects already in the pipeline, that is to say, already funded. That's where we'll start the implementation process and work on it. How best to do that. The PDC is working on identifying volunteers for the community working advisory group. These will be made up of representatives from all or Woodlands, including 10 volunteers who hopefully will be selected by the meetings next week. And I use volunteer. It's a volunteer. So we have names: Roland Township, Howard Hughes. We're still working on the Village Association memberships, and that we advise the VA Association, Council, and possibly special village associations. Okay. The other news is management of oversight of the communication consultant Holloway being transferred from SBRA to government agency. I think coming soon. We'll have or it'll be a much more streamlined process. So, the good news for us is that SBRA funding for Holloway is available through April 2025. I understood what it said in the meeting today. So I think it was what open to us. What's the date of the all of them? You mentioned the meeting, that's what. Meetings, individual,
Each, yeah.
individual. Okay, did you mention before at all one meeting?
Yeah, we thought it would be more efficient and catch all directors, because all directors don't go to the all MUDs.
Yes.
So we originally, we were trying to save the consultant from going to 10 meetings to do it in maybe 2. But then we realized it's just gonna be better if we just have them go to all 10. So that's the difference.
Everybody will get the same message. The same
Yep.
presentation.
Same,
And
that,
all of that.
Yep.
So we need to discussion. Okay, that takes us through agenda item 16, discuss matters for placement on future agendas.
I'd like to put one on here, specifically, Brian, and discuss director lots. And specifically, how they were created, who creates them, and how we can eliminate the signing of direct. So anyway, if we put that on the agenda, as you know, we have various people over in the past that have represented various months as they move around. And anyway,
Very good.
I'm going to discuss, and if you could kind of give us the history of direct loss and what a mud or this muds can do to a director lot assignment and you go to a completely resident constituent mud director.
Any other agenda items for future meetings? Yes.
I spoke with Jason Millsaps, who's the chief of staff under Keo, and he expressed interest to come to one of our meetings and give an update on the various flood mitigation projects that all the county commissioners are doing, their budgets, and just explain their scope of what they're doing for flood mitigation. So that way this board is kind of aware of the projects that they have. And but he's expressed interest to come, as well as several of the county commissioners that are involved, and they would come and would like to have, maybe 10 minutes or so to give an explanation of their work and their budget and how they're spending it.
Not aware of any in the Woodlands. Any
It's
project.
terrific that you made that out, these people really is. But do you want to pick this up and try and arrange this?
Yes, sir.
Is there any potential conflicts here that we have with not really being in the flood business, being in the drainage business? But it's information. Pardon me?
Complex in what way now?
Well, that it would be perhaps perceived that we are in flood mitigation.
By having Jason come speak?
Well, I would say there's a chance that might occur. Some people may get the wrong impression.
I don't think it would be a conflict. I think we've got in terms of, we've got responsibility in each of the respective mud, but, we talked before about the previous creation of the One Water Task Force, and the way to coordinate among entities that have, related, sometimes overlapping responsibility in the effort to rationalize. I think if we couch it in those terms, it should make it clear that we have responsibilities within our defined boundaries, but, Montgomery County is
Pretty clear that we're trying to have.
right.
This was for talking about that.
Montgomery County.
Yeah.
They do work.
Precinct.
I'm sure, I understand that they have some joint projects with Harris County as well because of the way that there's an overlap in projects. So, we may have interest to speak on that as well.
Great. Can't have too much information. Yeah. Good job. You want to coordinate with Eric to make this outreach and set up schedules and everything? Thank you.
It'd be great.
Any other additions for future meetings?
I didn't find that GRP discussion very satisfying, but obviously there's an issue that you're just talking about, so.
Have you ever been to the meeting?
Well, I mean,
Good
I'm suspecting that it's because there's still ongoing litigation between the river authority and the city, that it's still a fairly sensitive topic. It's what I kind of read between the lines.
Yeah.
But the foundational information is independent of the current policy. Doing a review of how they're funded, what some of the current contracts would be really important.
Well,
Because I'm right where you are, where why does it not make sense to run a plant to capacity?
And we're trying to save our reservoir. Aquifers are important, and there's a lot of development occurring, and that more people can pull water out of it.
So you look at Conroe, right, 400 wells.
We could have a meeting like that in a closed session.
They can't break their attorney-client privilege and river authority in their attorney. So even if they went into our closed session, that would still be breaking their attorney-client.
Be good.
But are you saying even the basics we can't talk about? Well, no, I'm talking about the issue between why they can't sell more. I mean, the low hanging fruit is obviously the large users. So, the duh answer is
sell a bunch more water to the city. But if you've got a city that's underpaying, which already is causing increased rates, and I see that they're saying about don't sell more water to the city, because that's just gonna result in a higher cost for all the other participants that are coming to the price.
Brad, I think what he's trying to say is Conroe gets involved in paying anything but the initial charge.
Everybody else is already,
Right, all the increases that if they take more water, they're gonna pay, say, $2.50. Everybody else has to make up. the
Yeah, but that's not the foundational problem.
No, but that's
The
legal.
foundational problem is the way that it's structured from the original, at least my understanding, talking to folks, is the original basis was mandated, we had to cut back on.
Groundwater withdrawal.
And we were
This is
distributing.
becoming an agenda item.
Okay.
And, I think it's in our best interest to do it if you all want to, have to do it all top of channel or,
I think it'd be good to have it that, the agenda item. for the-
we'll see if we can, I don't know who's going to make that presentation, but we'll certainly investigate it.
We can at least have.
If there's no other discussion, for future meetings, so I'm going to adjourn this meeting.